I'm now here with Patrick, CEO of Forte Minerals, who are a Canadian junior exploration company focused on copper and gold projects in Peru. Forte has been described as like buying copper and gold at 1997 prices. Full transparency and picture, copper's around 70 cents per pound in 1997 is now nearly around $6 per pound. And with gold, in 1997, it was $300 per ounce and now around 5,200 per ounce. The tickers are below on screen. Forte itself positions as an extremely well-funded explorer with a portfolio of high-quality assets in Peru's Miocene Tertiary volcanic arc, a belt hosting multiple world-class copper and gold deposits over the decades, neighboring the biggest resource companies in the world like Barrick Gold, who we're going to talk about shortly here too. Despite the tiny small cap market cap. On top of the potential, we're on 3D's channel here, who are a strategic shareholder in the company and are now highlighting Forte Minerals among its highest conviction resource investments, even after the latest run we've seen. So diving straight in, Patrick, for new investors, how would you describe Forte's Peru portfolio and what makes this sort of mix of gold and copper projects unique?
We have high quality gold and copper assets in Peru that we have been acquiring over the last 20 years. So 20 years ago, we started a private project generator that has been patient through the downturn and the worst times in exploration to acquire assets for the cost of staking or for tender at a low entry cost. And that's our strategy and our model. And as the market and exploration sector improves, we uncover value. So we have Altaruri and Esperanza, a gold high sulfidation system that's next door to a world-class mine called Pierina that was mined by Barrick for 20 years. And Esperanza is a porphyry copper in one of the world's most prolific copper belts. As you guys probably know, Peru is flip-flops between number 2 and number 3 copper producer globally next to the DRC and Chile. And it's a very prolific copper belt in southern Peru. And it's also number 6 in gold production.
Wow.
And there's only 1% of the known reserves in the country that are actually in active development. So extremely underexplored and a lot of potential to find more and develop more copper and gold assets.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just touching more on Altaruri, it's 15 kilometers roughly south of Barrick's mine. Obviously one of the largest and were the largest in the whole world for gold and copper producers. It also shows very similar high grade there. What are you actually chasing yourselves now?
We're chasing Pierina 2.0. Altaruri is a very special project. We're extremely fortunate to have 100% control of this asset. We staked it 10 years ago when it came up. It was dropped by a major mining company after being controlled for 15 years since discovery by these major mining companies. So we're fortunate to have acquired it at what is probably the worst time in exploration in 2015, and function of the cycle is that major mining companies often close down exploration, relinquish their early stage exploration assets, and unfortunately, close the offices and the teams. And big part of our strategy is to patiently wait. We waited 8 years for this project. We didn't know if it was going to come available, and we're able to acquire it. So Altaruri is very well known by all the players in Peru because of its discovery in the late 90s, and it's an analogy to Pierina. We're talking about the same age mineralization, the same host rock, the same grade gold and silver mineralization, and it's a extremely well endowed high sulfidation system that has the footprint on surface that Pierina does. And that's most important when we're looking for tier 1, tier 2 gold assets. Does it have the footprint of alteration on surface to be able to host such a large deposit? And really no modern day systematic exploration has ever been applied here. This was the late 90s. The deepest hole is 150 meters.
Yeah, yeah.
And there was 8 diamond holes and 4 RC holes. Um, some of these holes hit incredible mineralization and some were just outside of it. But the structural geology and the system was not well known at that point.
Mm-mm. Yeah, and I like what you're saying. We touched on it off camera. You know, you're picking up distressed assets from majors. You know, back in 2015, shareholders now can appreciate you guys have done 11 years of hard work and now can get in at the sort of real commercialization point, which is awesome. And then just touching on that 1997 discoveries at Alto, Buenaventura, I think was the previous firm there. They hit 137 meters of 2.55 grams per ton gold from surface, and then 54 meters at 39 grams per ton. I mean, that is a huge. That is just imagine that strip of gold. It's incredible. And I think someone did a video. I think at one point in the recent times showing how much gold on the world in the world there is in like a cube in front of Washington. It's actually not that much. So 133 meters at 54 is, and then 100, and then 54 meters as well is huge. Why do you think that discovery, it was so amazing, go quiet for sort of 25 years? And then how are you guys operating differently?
Yeah, the discovery intercepts were extremely impressive. It was drilled in the late 90s, like you say, by Buenaventura, where exploration models and gold prices were very different. I mean, this was a time when the largest gold deposit, Yanacocha, was being put into production by Buenaventura and Newmont in northern Peru. And for many years, and I think still today, Yanacocha produces 1 million ounces a year.
Mm,
And so there was distractions of other projects. This wasn't the top priority, but there was also, certain events that happened at this project during this campaign that didn't sit well with the local people. And this problem just lingered. No one ever, none of the operators or the title holders put in, the effort to solve the issues.
mm,
And instead, they would patiently wait, and the project sat dormant while these companies focus elsewhere, hoping that the
mm,
issues would disappear.
mm,
And so what is Forte doing differently? We've essentially, 29 years have passed since any significant drilling has happened here, or any significant systematic exploration or geophysics to expand on this mineralization that's seen at surface.
mm,
And Hector, you said it there, but it was 131 meters at 2.55 grams per
mm.
ton gold from surface. That was
Yeah.
the very first hole drilled. It was a 158-meter hole, and the top 54 meters was 5.4
Yeah.
grams gold. This is in, oxide gold, same as Pierina. Pierina was a heap leach oxide gold operation, and for many years, it was the lowest cost gold producing asset on the planet in the late 90s and the early 2000s at $49 an ounce. $49 an ounce to heap leach this gold mineralization that was at Pierina.
Mm,
So we spent a lot of time and resources with expertise reanalyzing the drill core. So we have the drill core from back in 1997, which is very critical. It stayed in good custody from Buenaventura and 2 other major companies, and
mm,
we were able to take custody of that in 2015, whereby we reanalyzed it. We applied, alteration studies to be able to confirm, is this the mineralization that was mined at Pierina for 20 years?
mm,
And we're able to confirm that it is Miocene, 14.9 million years old. It's the same
mm,
volcaniclastic lapilli tuff, pumice tuff that was mined at Pierina, and coincidentally the same elevation. There's no other correlation that we can't find that doesn't align well. But we talked about the alteration footprint. The alteration footprint is as big as Pierina, if not bigger, and 95% of Altaruri has yet to be explored at depth and around the initial drilling back in 1997.
Yeah, this is clearly a story of exactly the headline we open with. This is like finding gold at those 1997 prices, and then what you said about the cost of $49 an ounce to sort of get it out of the ground, and you've got these huge strips and track record of this being the exact spot as well, and just not just being ignored for 29 years, and now you've had it for 11. Very, very exciting. Um,
Right, right.
and you
So
called it
really, you asked me how are we doing things differently, and honestly, we took on social risk 10 years ago when we first staked it. We didn't know what the certainty was with being able to operate, advance exploration, and get access back. So we developed like a well thought out, dedicated social engagement program to find out what the issues were back in the late 90s. So understanding, listening to the people. We're dealing with a very, very small community of just over 50 people,
Mm,
mainly agricultural livestock herders that were disappointed with the way that the exploration efforts went at that time. And so it was understanding what the issues were and then helping to solve them. But we have support from the community now,
mm,
and one of the key catalysts that we'll get into is securing a long-term access agreement. We have support from the community in order to do that, and it's a matter of finalizing that agreement so that we can unlock tremendous value of this project.
yeah, you've described it as a modern reevaluation opportunity. What did you see in the old data that others missed? We've sort of touched on it already. And what are the first sort of modern work programs you're running?
Well, the historic data, I mean, it was just phenomenal gold grades, but we saw beyond that a large high sulfidation alteration systems. And you ask any of the gold producers out there, they all love high sulfidation systems because they generally exhibit good gold grades and silver grades. They are continuous, so that they demonstrate good continuity with grade, which is really important in any deposit,
Mm,
and typically long mine lives. So these gold intercepts had never been followed up, and it had never been systematically explored with modern structural alteration mapping, sampling, trenching, and geophysics.
mm,
Geophysics are the best tool through resistivity surveys to find this mineralization. This mineralization is typically it is advanced argillic, which is silica, and so silica brought through the hydrothermal fluids brought the gold mineralization
mm,
into the host rock, and it's very, very resistive rock, whereas the surrounding alteration is clay, which
mm,
is very, very low resistivity. So any resistivity studies, and we'll do all of them that you can apply here to help, refine the targets, understand the structural geology, and where the mineralization is hiding beneath surface and this initial drill
mm.
discovery drill hole.
Yeah, yeah, as we've touched on earlier, this isn't sort of other explorers that typically explore like blank maps. You're really working projects with historic drilling and geophysics. I mean, it seems like at this point it's kind of certain success, but what would you put your odds of success at? And I mean, that must also mean that the capital you raise or have already raised and you're already well funded means that that can be spent in really the right places without any waste.
Yeah, look, the geologic risk has been mitigated substantially with the initial first pass drilling, what's known on surface and from those core holes, and moving to the next stage, we can really allocate capital to expanding. We're trying to expand on this mineralization. We know it's there, and the alteration footprint, as you said, is very large on surface. So it's a matter of finding out where the mineralization goes and where the ore body sits.
What made you choose the properties that were picked up? Had you spotted what the stuff we've talked about, or was it more the location of the other mines or the historic drilling? What made you actually pick them up at the distress levels?
We at one point had 38 projects,
Mhm.
okay, privately that we had staked over the last 20 years. And Esperanza and Altaruri were our top two projects that we wanted to move forward ourselves. They had
Mm.
mineralization at surface, alteration footprints large enough to host world-class deposits. So we wanted to move those forward. And
Mm.
we've, some of these should have been drilled 10 years ago, but given where we were in a downturn in the market, they didn't get the attention and capital they deserve.
Yeah, yeah. So you spotted it in a distressed market. And then just tell us a bit about you. Let viewers understand you. Maybe a 1 minute version of your path from economic geologist and capital markets guy before sort of Forte.
Yeah, I'm an economic geologist, did my undergrad in geology, and then moved to Chile. And I started out in Chile looking and working on porphyry copper systems. And after a couple of years, we recognized that Peru was very underexplored. It had a very late start in exploration, and there was hydrothermal systems on surface throughout the mineral belts in Peru. So 20 years ago. Moved up into Peru. We opened up an exploration office and we started staking and exploring high sulfidation gold and porphyry coppers in Peru. And
Mm.
we had a tremendous amount of success through the last bull metals cycle, and we've never left.
Mm.
Um, After about 10 years of being an exploration geologist, I did an MSc in mineral economics and an MBA in mining finance, and I've been working more on identifying these exploration opportunities in Peru, financing them, and advancing these projects towards discovery.
Mm.
We've
Yeah.
had the same team and the same talent that we've worked with over 20 years, and there's a lot of passion and loyalty amongst that group to move Altaruri and Esperanza forward.
Yeah, yeah, and then maybe expand on the team a little bit from a sort of technical perspective. What does your exploration team do exceptionally well that gives you sort of confidence heading into the next drill programs?
Well, look, they're experts in Andean mineral systems, particularly high sulfidation gold and porphyry copper. That's what riddles these mineral belts in Peru.
Mm.
And we have a strong expertise in being able to integrate, historical data with modern exploration techniques,
Mm.
to generate, high quality drill targets. But it's the experience that comes with these systems in Peru. There's very many similar systems with nearby copper deposits and mines, as well as some of the best world-class gold systems like Pierina, Altajucama, and Yanacocha.
Yeah. And then sort of on previous companies and discoveries that you've worked on, is there anything you've learned from there? I mean, was it just primarily the location that you're applying now to Forte?
Yeah, we know where we want to look. It's just the southern Peru Paleocene copper belt, and the central Peru gold belt. And I'd say the biggest lessons we learned is discipline and timing in project selection and acquisition is everything.
Mm.
So, successful discoveries, they typically come from strong geology in proven belts. But
Mm.
but timing is everything on acquisition at low cost. And that's why our focus is on projects with known mineralization that can benefit from modern systematic exploration along trend and next door to existing mines and deposits.
Yeah, yeah. And then back to Alto, Rory, and sort of the next 12 months of geophysics mapping permits and first confirmation holes. I mean, you already touched on the long-term access agreement with the sort of small village of 50 people and the community there. Yeah, touch on the sort of those sorts of few things there.
Yeah, so critical over the next 12 months is we're focused on advancing permits. So advancing drill permits and a long-term social engagement agreement with the community. And we'll redo everything. We'll redo all the detailed alteration mapping, redo every geophysical resistivity survey that will help, model this like a modern day video game, and
Mm.
refine these drill targets test the scale and potential of this system and better understand it.
Yeah, yeah. How long do permits typically take, and what's the length of process for some of these things?
Things have improved dramatically with efficiencies and
Mm.
the bottleneck with drill permitting. So it's estimated around 6 to 9 months to get the type of permit that we require to advance Altaruri.
Mm. And if all works out the sort of way you hope, what type of scale are you aiming for? Are you literally taking that one-to-one Barrick Pierina style open pit, a satellite, or something different?
If the system behaves the way we anticipate, the target is a large open pit style high sulfidation deposit like Pierina,
Mm.
and similar to what we saw next door. So, we're going after a tier one, tier two gold asset here, and we feel we can create significant value from unlocking the social through drill permitting and systematically drilling. This mineralization that's initially encountered 30 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. And then we briefly touched on other projects, perhaps touch on Esperanza and once again another big name next door. Bear in mind your small cap, and then you've got these majors and large caps next door, Pecoy Copper next door. Touch on that project for us.
Yeah, this is an exciting porphyry copper moly system in the Paleocene belt of southern Peru, and these are large or giant deposits that you see throughout this whole belt. You have Tocopala, Cerro Verde, um, Quellaveco.
Mm.
Cerro Verde is the fifth largest gold deposit in the world, and
Mm.
so Pecoy Copper is next door, and I mean next door. It's about 5 kilometers away to our northeast along strike, and so along this mineral belt, but essentially along this northern extension, there's porphyry copper occurrences that pop up on this northwest section. So Esperanza has been highly sought after. It's exposed on surface. The porphyry is exposed on surface. It has an extremely large porphyry alteration footprint,
Mm.
and it's been confirmed with geophysics, mapping, sampling, and surface exploration that there's a system there, and we're fully drill permitted
That's what I was going to say.
to
Yeah.
move ahead
Mm.
and advance this project through discovery drilling this year.
Yeah, I was literally about to say it's sort of already got the permits, and now you're just literally about to do the drilling, which is extremely exciting. And I mean, just touching on copper in general, I mean, I don't know how much you've been looking at the sort of copper shortage rumors and things like that, but this can only really exponentially grow what you guys are doing. So yeah, it's very exciting. And then sort of how do you prioritize the portfolio? Obviously, a couple of projects here, and then how are you prioritizing capital between those two projects, Altaruri and Esperanza?
Well, Altaruri Gold and Esperanza Copper, these are the two primary value drivers to move these forward ourselves and unlock value. Altaruri, it represents a near-term gold discovery opportunity that we can start delineating
Mm.
mineralization. And Esperanza, offers a potentially large copper porphyry target.
Mm.
So we're really splitting the capital allocation to advance both these projects in parallel.
Lovely, yeah. It's good that you can do both at the same time. Obviously, we mentioned at the beginning, well-funded company, so you can do that, which is awesome. And then linking to strategic sort of investors and shareholder perspective, obviously we're on 3D Capital's channel, who came in very early before most people were paying attention. How important has their support been in getting Forte to this point?
Well, the support was extremely important. We have these early backers that recognize the expertise, the geological potential and opportunity, and the ability to build a portfolio of assets like this in a downturn of the market.
Yeah.
And that backing essentially has allowed us to assemble and advance these projects where we can now build tremendous value.
Yeah, yeah, and obviously with Sheldon's expertise, probably clicked with you on a number of levels, and his history in the commodity space, and then sort of people might see the stock price and think, blimey, it's risen quite a lot recently, but it's clearly still early. I mean, I've heard figures, crazy figures that in terms of upside. Explain to someone why it's sort of still early. Thinking that, despite thinking they might think that they've missed it, what are the key sort of value creation events ahead?
Well, look, from an exploration perspective, we're still at the stage of unlocking the real potential of these systems. We're really just scraping the surface. So, with drilling and major exploration milestones, they're still ahead of us, and that means the most significant value creation events are still to come.
Yeah, very, very good point and answer. And then sort of, maybe speaking of capital structure and management, how are management and sort of key backers aligned with, the common shareholders in terms of share ownership, the financing structure, and the project decision making?
Well, management and the key investors and strategic partners, they hold significant equity positions, and you can see that this stock is extremely tight.
Hmm.
So we're all directly aligned with the same goals and visions with shareholders in creating value through discovery, resource delineation, and eventual sale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, brilliant. You've kind of already touched on it, but the budget's 50/50, we'd say to both the copper and gold side. Um, where does the sort of treasury sit today? What's your maybe monthly burn? How much runway do you have to execute both those projects at the same time?
We have 13 million Canadian in the Treasury, and that's predominantly come from support from our two strategic mining companies that have each come in for 9.9% in the last 6 months, which really is significant, and that shows that like you have that endorsement. They recognize the potential for these assets to become world class or tier one, tier two stage assets. And we plan on spending about half that money this year. So to answer your question, we got about 2 years of runway, and there's quite a few warrants that are well in the money for next year that are close to us. And there'll be further support from warrant exercise there. But we have 2 years of runway with the 13 million. About 5 will be deployed this year across Esperanza and Altaruri, depending on how intense the drilling campaigns become. But we certainly want to push that as quickly as we can. So yeah, it's gonna be an exciting program.
Yeah, yeah. We've mentioned 3D, but those two 9.9% strategic investors clearly are very material. I mean, is that something that maybe might be announced in the future? Those backers?
Yeah, they're both well-known precious metal companies that are producers, and they essentially recognize that these could be pipeline projects for them.
Yeah, yeah. And then how are you thinking about sort of future funding, maybe after those 2 years? Perhaps, all of these discoveries pretty much happen in the next year or however long, and you don't really need much future funding. Or maybe you'd like the funding to expand faster, which is obviously important, like you've been able to do with both projects at the same time. How do you avoid sort of over dilution at maybe today's valuation?
I think we've been very fortunate. We've been extremely conscious about protecting the equity. And
Mm.
in tough times, we weren't forced to have to pay option payments or work commitments and raise capital at low valuations. So we have 75 million shares outstanding. We've never rolled back the stock.
Mm.
And with that said, we're very conscious on the capital that we bring in. Okay, we
Yeah.
want to make sure that it aligns with management and the strategic
Mm.
partners' goals. So we're gonna advance projects through these key value inflection points before raising any more capital.
Yeah, yeah. And even before the call, I mean, I remember you saying that you want to build these things for as long as possible, not just selling them off to someone else to do. You guys have done the dog work, so you deserve most of the reward.
Yeah,
And
I think
then
that's exactly it. What's
mm,
critical there is testing these systems adequately, right?
yeah.
Pierina, uh, it was sold to Barrick Gold after 9 drill holes. I mean, the continuity, the grade, I mean, it was just exceptional. Um, it was it was a different era where you could sell a deposit for $1 billion. In the 90s at $300 gold
Mm,
after 9 drill holes. And so, we want to, properly test these systems before we give up the interest and bring in larger partners.
yeah, yeah. And with gold and copper at these all-time highs, and actually copper, we've touched on a sort of different strong structural case with the potential shortages. How do these macro backdrops feed into your explanation and financing strategy? Presumably, all the confidence just filters through into you guys as well.
Yeah, it's certainly very favorable for us, given that we are gold and copper focused.
Mm,
You got gold at record highs, and the long-term copper supply deficit. This strengthens the case. So
mm,
we really want to advance the gold right now, and there's a more long-term supportive case for copper, and so
mm,
moving both of these together in parallel, it's a lot easier to advance a high sulfidation gold system. It requires much less drilling. They're typically high grade and reasonable tonnage systems. So it's not going to be years and years of drilling this system out. We feel like in the next year to two, you can properly test that system and at least get a first pass drill program in at Esperanza to test that porphyry system.
yeah, absolutely. Very exciting. I mean, we also, we've touched on from the very beginning. It seems like a done deal, so to speak. But what would you say, if you really had to be very critical, what are the sort of top technical and non-technical risks, for example, at Altaruri and across the portfolio, and how are you mitigating them and adapting to those scenarios?
Yeah, the primary technical risk at Altaruri is whether the mineralization continues at scale.
Mm,
Which is why, systematic exploration, careful target definition are critical. And so this has never been applied there.
mm,
So going through those steps, that would be the primary technical risk. And non-technical, it's social and permitting.
mm,
And so we've brought in our social initiatives in-house approximately 5 years ago. This was something that was always outsourced. But 5 years ago, we deemed it to be, one of the most critical parts of exploration in Peru. So we have a very experienced in-house social team that are dedicated to each project.
mm,
And there's a daily, if not weekly, engagement. Whereas in the past, it might have been a quarterly or monthly engagement with the communities. But
mm,
we start earlier now too. So the engagement
mm,
is before exploration even begins, so before drilling even begins, and it's mapping out what's important to the communities and aligning that
mm.
with our target hurdles that we need to achieve along this exploration stage.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you
So
kind of might.
we focus on non-technical risks. Uh,
Yeah,
it's social engagement, relationships,
yeah. ESG and the community. Yeah.
responsible
Mm,
environmental practices,
mm,
and permitting. Permitting is not such a high risk. It's usually just a timeline if you meet those other two criterias.
yeah, yeah. Well, that was basically my next question around ESG and community, but you've absolutely answered that. And very fascinating. You're saying was it day to day now you're in and around the community, or how often were you there?
Well, put it this way, if you're committed to a
Yeah.
project, then then you don't ever leave.
Mm,
So there's a presence that's consistent, and
mm,
it's day to day and week to week. So we prioritize building trust
mm,
and strong local relationships with everybody. And this
mm,
is not just building relationships with the leaders of the community
mm,
or the administration. It's with every individual.
mm.
We know everybody's name. We know what their
Wow.
pets' names are. It's an intimate relationship that is
Wow.
been going on for years.
Wow, wow. I can only imagine the opposite of what some of these other miners do. If they don't even have that connection, it probably means that a lot of the stuff isn't even developable. But yeah, no, very, very well done. I
It's
mean,
it's probably the most important part of exploration in the country and even globally. It's all changed in the last couple decades, but a critical piece is just starting that process early, not further down um,
mm,
resource development or economic studies pre-development stage. It's
yes.
starting from the initial surface exploration.
Yeah, yeah, because then the communities probably would then see it as more of an opportunity rather than you actually caring because because starting so early shows you care. Um, but yeah, just going on to sort of the last couple of questions here, really the catalyst and long-term vision, which everyone is obviously excited to hear about. What are the top three catalyst investors should watch over for the next sort of 6 to 12 months?
Well, first and foremost, it would be a long-term community agreement. And when I say long-term, it's
Even longer. Yeah.
well, it's throughout the entire exploration
Mm,
phase, right? That's very important. Oftentimes on early stage exploration, you would get a 1 year agreement. We're aligned to get something much longer
mm,
because of the initial discovery and the potential here.
mm,
It's in everybody's best interest, the community, shareholders, and the company, in order to have a path to properly explore Altaruri. In
mm,
the case of Esperanza, it's drilling. Discovery drilling is the next big catalyst. So
mm,
the long-term social agreement that will give us a pathway to unlock the value that's been locked up in this project and find a meaningful gold deposit,
mm.
and then discovery drilling at Esperanza. And you wanted a third catalyst. It's finding a meaningful copper and gold deposit in
Yeah.
Peru.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm just linking to those drill holes. I mean, you touched on the previous people at Barrick. It was sort of 9 holes drilled and then sold to Barrick. I mean, how many holes drilled do you reckon you guys will go before you know, see any sort of potential exit scenarios? I mean, maybe just answer. The next question is simply, in the next 2 to 5 years, what does success look like for you guys in terms of discoveries, partnerships, all those exit scenarios?
Yeah, I mean, the first question is a tough one to answer,
Mm,
but I'll tell you one thing. We will properly test these systems before
mm,
they're sold. But success is really it's making a meaningful gold or copper discovery or both, and
mm,
advancing these projects so that you're not leaving much on the table.
mm.
And so you advance them through resource development and ultimately sell these assets to one of the many mining companies desperate for copper and gold projects of this caliber.
Yeah, yeah. And this is absolutely huge for a small cap company. So I think people should really think about that. This isn't just some major that's talking about this stuff. It's you guys, and they can see your market cap. So yeah, I mean, and expanding on that, what's your maybe message to 3D shareholders watching this, new viewers, new shareholders who are hearing the story for the first time today?
Well, certainly a lot of the de-risking measures have been done on our asset and our portfolio, and that's critical. We were able to acquire these assets for next to nothing a decade ago, and we're building significant value. But the biggest value drivers are yet to come
Hmm.
through expanding on mineralization at Altaruri and making a porphyry copper discovery at Esperanza.
Cool.
So. This is, just simply a function of never being tested in modern day exploration methods.
Yeah, yeah. No, extremely exciting. And I can see the picture and vision more. I know how excited 3D are and how much they've backed you guys silently, and now becoming very public with it. So yeah, it's time to really motor on, and I think everyone will be very excited to follow the story as things progress.
Yeah, what a time to be able to come out with meaningful drill intercepts or discovery news. You have an extremely attentive audience in a very vibrant market.
Yes, yes. I might have to edit this out, but is it public what 3D's holding a percentage in Forte is at the moment?
I don't believe so.
Okay, okay. We'll leave that off for now then. But thank you very much, Patrick, and I look forward to having you on very soon again. It seems like there's going to be lots to happen over the next 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, certainly exciting times, and we're well capitalized to get there. So it's a few de-risking measures to be able to unlock tremendous value here.
Yeah,
So the next 6 to 12 months will be some big catalysts to
mm,
create value.
awesome.